be gay if you don't act on it. That to act on your homosexual feelings would be immoral and would subject you to some kind of church discipline and in some cases excommunication from the church.
But of course, as your understanding grows, as ours has over many years, to me the immorality is to expect that someone should live their entire life without the opportunity to find love.
I know a lot of Mormon guys that have tried to change, to be straight. Some just counseling, some have gone to these crazy centers where, you know, they claim that they can change your behavior. I'm not aware of anybody that has successfully changed.
Young boys are being taught to hate themselves instead of to accept themselves for who they are. And in a very pernicious sort of way, they're being taught that they are so bad and so unworthy that it's not worth trying to be good. That why should they try to live a moral life if they're immoral by definition?
There was a day when I was out shopping with our daughter Bonnie, and someone came up to us in the mall and was extremely upset and in tears and saying had she heard the news about their friend. It was a friend from high school who had died by suicide in the previous days. And when we remember back, I remember him standing in our kitchen when they were both seniors. He was the valedictorian of her high school class. He was bright and articulate and funny and wonderful. And I remember he used to bake marble brownies, standing in our kitchen with a plate of his marble brownies, and they were full of dreams for the future. She was going off to Harvard, and he was going to Yale, and there was some good-natured rivalry. But then, in the 3 years that passed, it was the summer before their senior year, we got this news that he had died by suicide. And of course, I don't know that Art came out to them, that everybody understood that that was the case. And a pivotal moment in my life, a true epiphany, was Art's funeral. When Bonnie and I sat in his Presbyterian church, I looked around at the distraught people sitting in the church, people who had loved him so well, and it occurred to me, these people have unknowingly contributed to his despair. They did not even know that the ignorance that comes over the pulpits are destroying our people, our young people. Bonnie sat on my shoulder as she silently sobbed, and I looked up in that church, and there's a beautiful stained glass window of Christ holding the lamb, and under it are the words, "Feed my sheep." And I was so struck with the notion, this was a lamb we failed to feed. Worse still, he would starve to death. And I knew in that moment I could never be quiet again. I would try to be educated, I would try to learn, but I would never be quiet again on this issue.
I draw a parallel to the civil rights movement in the 60s. I often think that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be looking back on how we dealt with this issue. And, I often ask myself if I had lived in the South in the 60s, would I have been out there marching for civil rights, or would I have been feeding people because they're there at the wrong lunch counter? And I don't want to be on the wrong side of this issue. And it's not just a difference of opinion. This is one thing that drives me nuts, is when they say, let's all hold a poll, let's have a poll and decide whether we should discriminate against gays. This whole country is about not having a poll to decide who has which rights and who doesn't. People have rights, and they're entitled to them, and they must be protected. And if someone else's rights are not protected, then all of our rights are in jeopardy. Just as I remain a Mormon, I remain a Republican, and hope that my church and my political party can come around to the truth and to a better understanding.
Obviously, I want equal rights for everybody. And it shouldn't stop with gay people. They ought to be able to get married. We ought to have the same rights that anybody else has. I live between New York and San Francisco, and I'm surrounded by gay people every single day because I live in gay neighborhoods in 2 gayest cities in the country. But I have to remind myself occasionally that there's guys out in the middle of Nebraska, and there's, guys down in Texas in small towns, and it's important to remember that there is still a lot of work to be done so these people can exist in their communities where they do stand out a little bit more.